I'd like to show you how to create hyperlinks in Excel and talk a little bit about how I believe that hyperlinks can improve your effectiveness by improving the effectiveness of the Excel files that you create. So let's go ahead and get started. Really, two basic ideas here is why create hyperlinks in the first place, or in other words, what are they? And then I'd like to show you how to create hyperlinks in Excel. And so here's a little screenshot of some hyperlinks that I hope you've discovered already by opening that Excel file called basicmath.xlsx. And then here's a little button. I'm going to show you how to create this button and tie it to a hyperlink. Okay, so why? And so here's my own example of a little screenshot of the first tab in basicmath.xlsx. And if you look lower in that in the file, you'll see that this particular Excel file, Basic Math, contains lots and lots of tabs, also known as worksheets. And so Microsoft calls them worksheets. I call them tabs, but you can see that I have renamed them different than sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and try to make them, those tab names, make some sense. Okay. Also in that file, you'll see some buttons that take you to various places, and a commonly occurring button is back to index, which takes you right back to this first tab. And so why am I doing this? I believe it helps to exploit the power of using multiple tabs within a single Excel file. It really helps you organize your work rather than having one monstrous sheet with lots of different topics and information on it. That's the old way. So when I started learning how to use the spreadsheet environment platforms, that was it. It was one single sheet, and that's why they called it a spreadsheet, because it was spread, and it was kind of amazing the things that we were able to create with one single sheet. But by golly, when Microsoft came out with the ability to have multiple worksheets or tabs within the same file, I have to tell you that that really helped revolutionize the way I worked and used Excel to be a problem solver in engineering. Okay, hyperlinks help you guide the user, including yourself. You're going to be a user, especially if you create one of these files, put it away for 6 months and go back to use it again. It helps you guide even yourself, but particularly other users in using your file effectively. And it also opens up the ability, depending on what your application is, it enables you to set up step-by-step capability, leading a user through a process in Excel. It can be revolutionary in the way you guide a user through a multiple-step, let's say, analysis process. It makes it easier for the user, including yourself, to navigate through what potentially could be a complex file with lots and lots of different topics or tables of data. And so overall, it helps you to improve your effectiveness and the effectiveness of the Excel file. Okay, and so we're getting close to springing into action here. And so here's the example problem I'd like to illustrate. Let's just call it analysis of ice cream production. We have to imagine that we're employees, or we're an engineer, or a frontline leader, or even perhaps a business manager in an ice cream manufacturing facility. It makes lots of different flavors of ice cream. And so you've either been assigned, or you want to take it on yourself to create an Excel tool where you analyze last year's ice cream production. The Excel tool should stand alone, clearly show your analysis, contain all the source data that you used, and summarize the results so others don't have to dissect your work. Something just came to me before we go live. A lot of engineers, a lot of college students, but particularly engineers, believe that once they get out into the workforce, their immediate supervisor will be checking their work because those supervisors would be so experienced and smart and so interested in being sure that that engineer's work is correct. That is a hasty generalization. I didn't find that to be true at all from the word go. I was a starting engineer, and at least my supervisors made it clear that they expected me to bring to them summaries of my work, but they didn't want to be bored with the engineering details of how I got this and what I got that. What did I use for R? Did I consider the substance to be an ideal gas? You get the idea, right? And so when you get out in the workforce, an individual, a supervisor or a peer is not going to be fishing through your Excel file or your MATLAB file or your work to check your work. Well, anyway, I got off track there a little bit, but anyway, that's one of my common things that I like to tell folks is that supervisors are not there to check your work like instructors are in college. Oops, but that's the big takeaway. Back to Excel. So let's see, I'm going to X out of PowerPoint. I'm going to go into Excel, and now we can get to work. And so I have created a little pre-work. You see that I opened Excel. I immediately did a save as file name, created a brand new file from scratch. Save as, and this particular file name I called Hyperlink Demo. Okay. I've titled it Analysis of Ice Cream Production. I have said what the file name is, dated it, and put my initials so my coworkers will know well who created this file. Also, so then you say, well, let's. What else did I do? You said here's the objective, and now I'm going to turn the work over to you, and you would summarize your objective for this file. What do I want to do? What's the general objective? So this first tab, let's discuss the pre-work for this file. And I'm trying to, in red, I'm trying to remind myself, what did I do to get ready so I can communicate that to you. Remember, when I open Excel, it starts with 3 sheets as a default. And they're called sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3. Well, the first thing I did was I planned out in my mind. I didn't really write anything down, not like elementary school where you have to write down an outline. Create an outline in your mind. I had it in my mind, okay? So I planned out multi-tabs. So it's sort of like a mental outline. And I said, okay, the first tab I'm going to use, in my work, always the first tab, the first sheet is always something very similar. It doesn't show any calculations. It doesn't show a whole lot of given information, not a lot of data tables. It's more stating the objective. That's my first tab. So consider in your work, your first tab would be called, let's maybe intro or index, or for this particular one, I call it contents. Okay. And then in my mental outline, I added some tabs and I renamed those tabs sort of consistent with my outline. The next tab over I called analysis. That's where I will do my mathematical analysis. After that, I will summarize my work, okay, so that my coworkers and supervisor, they don't even have to click on this analysis tab if they don't want. There'll be some type of graphical summary or tabular summary of my work, okay? Now, in my analysis, I'm going to need something that I've kind of invented, product codes, flavors of ice cream against the numerical product number for the ice cream. So I'm going to have let's jump to that, product codes. So do you see here, I have devoted an entire tab, simply to a table of product codes, numbers against product names. And I'm going to be using that in my analysis. But I'm not going to jumble everything up in my analysis. I'm going to devote product codes to one tab. Also in my analysis, I'm going to need to look at fuel costs. And so I've developed another tab called fuel cost. Well, here's a simple, you can keep these tabs simple. Here is a table that I went out and got from the internet. A little bit more of that in a second. about fuel costs, various fuels, and what the costs are in terms of dollars per million BTUs, getting the fuels on a baseline basis, dollars per million BTUs, okay? And then a third tab that I'm going to use in my analysis, I called production amounts. And so here's something different. So you'll notice that this particular table is arranged different by flavor differently than the production codes tab. So that's why this is different. And one of my coworkers has shared the annual production in gallons of all of the flavors that we produce in our manufacturing facility or factory. And so this is another data table that I'll use in my analysis. Let me go back to contents. Okay, so that's the pre-work that I've done. Now, okay, so here we go. The purpose of this, I was getting all involved in my analysis. So the purpose of this is to show you how to create links to these various tabs to guide the user. So let's see, the first thing in kind of creating a table of contents, let's just type out what the tabs are. Analysis, summary, product codes, fuel costs, and production amounts. In fact, okay, up here analysis, I've changed my mind. So we're going to assign hyperlinks, links to all these cells, okay? So I'm going to increase the column width. So all these are going to fit nicely. I might blow up the font size for these once we're done. And I just thought instead of analysis, let's call it jump to analysis. And we could do the same thing. Anything you want to put, jump to summary. All right, so recognize that these cells can be any text, anything. All right, let's create our first hyperlink. I'm going to click on cell A7, and then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to look down in my pick list. Here's hyperlink. So let's click that, hyperlink. Okay, so now we're going to assign the hyperlink where we want to jump to. Let's see. We want to jump to a place in this document. I'm going to click place in this document. All I got to do is I want to jump to analysis. And then OK. And look what happened. So Excel was so smart. It recognizes that you just created a hyperlink. Okay, and I'm going to go, and so it turns it blue. Okay, and now look at this. When I come over here, the finger, you get the finger, it shows up, and I can click it, jump to analysis, and there I am at the analysis tab, just like that. So let's go back to contents. All right, now I'm going to pretty this up. I'm going to make it bold, and I'm going to make it bigger, and I've got to increase my column size. Okay, let's do the same thing for all these. Okay, jump to summary, right click, hyperlink, a place in this document. Let's see, jump to summary. Let's see. Okay, just leave it there. Product codes, hyperlink. I was getting ahead of myself. I don't want to get too fancy. Well, let's see, product codes. You're starting to see the repetition now. Fuel cost, right click, hyperlink, click on place in this document, fuel costs. I'm going to click on the cell, right click, hyperlink, and production amounts. Okay, and there we go. And so let's go ahead and make these bigger. I'll increase the font size to 12. Okay. I'm going to make them bold. And I need to increase my column width. Easy as that. Now, let's say, for example, we're just kind of goofing around here, but let's say down here, we wanted to create some type of friendly hyperlink out to an internet address within Excel. Really very handy. I'm going to minimize Excel, and I'm going to go to my browser, and I've got set up I'd like to link to the mechanical engineering page of Virginia Tech. So there I am in the browser. I'm just going to copy my internet address. I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to go back to Excel, and I'm going to click on cell A28, right-click A28, hyperlink. Okay, let's see. This is going to be a web page, So I'm going to click on web page and the address, paste our address in. Okay. Excel is so smart that it went ahead and there's the address right there. I'm going to make it bold and big. And so if I click on this, well, let's see what happens. So within the Excel environment, if I click on this internet address, it's out there and boom, there it is. Just you immediately jump in your browser to that link. So let me minimize it. And here we are back to Excel. Pretty handy. And so I got to tell you that I have really used this to great advantage. Okay, is that now? Let me check to see. I've discussed the pre-work for the file. So I think I've done this. So I'm going to delete this to make it pretty. Okay, and so the analysis tab, right now it's blank and we're not going to even do an analysis. Let's go back to contents. I'd like to show you an alternative way to get to the analysis tab, the summary tab, the product codes tab, and that is creating a button. So let's say that it looks a little fancier to me. So what we want to do is we're going to insert a shape. Insert a shape. Okay. And I'm going to show you one of my favorite shapes is, here it is. It's a bevel. And the bevel to me looks a lot like a push button. So I'm going to click on bevel, and now I'm going to draw the bevel. So to me, see how much that looks like a button to me and to you? All right. I don't like the default look of that button, so I'm going to format it first before I assign a hyperlink to it. So I'm going to right click on this, okay? And let's see, format shape. I like my fill, I like a nice subtle fill color, so I just make my fill color sort of a light gray, a line color. I like nice, clean black lines and line style. That looks a little thick to me for a button, so I'm going to decrease the line size to 1.5 points. Okay, so we've got the beginning of our button. Now we're going to put some text in our button. So I'm going to right click, edit text, and I'm going to call it, let's just call it analysis. That is impossible to read, isn't it? Okay, so I think what I need to do is I've got to figure out my font color, and let's make it black. Oh, I say instead of white, okay? I need to spell it right. Another thing I want to do, analysis, A-N-A-L-Y-S-I-S, okay? I want to center my word in the button. I don't like the Calibri font. I like the Arial font, but you can use any font you want, okay? I'm going to increase the font size to 12. I'm going to make it bold, and I can even make my button any size I want. That's up to you. All right, so I've got this bevel. It's a shape. That's all it is, just a shape. I'm going to right-click on this shape, and I'm going to click on hyperlink. Do you see the repetition? A place in this document, okay? The analysis tab, and okay. And so let's see what happens. I'm going to click on this analysis button. It goes right to analysis. Pretty cool, isn't it? All right. Now, one thing, so now I'm going to copy this button because every time I go to a tab in my work and working with others, I found that others like to be able to get back to the table of contents easily. And so I'm going to exploit something I've already done. I'm going to right click on this button and I'm going to copy. I've copied my button. I'm going to go to the analysis tab. How do I do that? Oh, I'll click a hyperlink. Okay. And anywhere in this tab, I'm going to hit paste. Okay. Well, there's my analysis button. So what happens when I click analysis? Well, it goes to the analysis. All right. Well, what I want to do is rename my button back to, let's say, back to contents. If the text didn't fit, you just change the size of your button. Okay. Let's right click and edit the hyperlink and make it go to contents. Okay. Now let me click this, but I'm going to click this button. I'm going to copy this button into my clipboard. I have a reason for that. Let's click back to contents. Back we are at the table of contents. Let's click the summary. Now watch how easy this is. I'm going to hit, I had it in my clipboard. I'm going to click paste, back to contents, product codes, paste. Now I can click back to contents, fuel costs. Let me hit paste. Put it anywhere, back to contents, production amounts, paste. You can put it anywhere and move it anywhere. Kind of nice. Okay. Okay. Oh, fuel cost. Let's go to fuel cost. And so notice here that, for example, on my fuel costs, I just went out today to the internet to this web address to get my data. I didn't make this data up out of thin air. I got it from the internet and from the web. And just, it's kind of a neat way to paste in the address and assign it to a hyperlink. And this allows anybody to go out and see, where did the engineer get his or her source data? Okay, I think you get the idea. So do you see that if you wanted, you can create copy and paste buttons, production amounts. Okay, well, let me widen out my button to make that. Okay, I'm going to edit my button, edit hyperlink, click on production amounts. And now I've got this nice button that takes you to production amounts. I've got it. I can go back to contents easily. Okay. And I have found that that enables users to navigate my Excel files much easier than trying to study these tab names, especially if you have lots and lots of tabs that are going to bleed over, or in other words, you're going to have so many tabs that you can't see them on your screen and you have to navigate through the tabs to see where you're going. So this it's sort of like a navigation aid. All right. So I'm not going to dress this file up any further, but do you see, I think I've illustrated what you could do. You could create a button for each one of these. You can create hyperlinks within the cells. And I think that, so one last thing. Let's edit one of these. Let's jump to summary. And let's say that we want to draw the user's eye to this cell. Okay, that's going to be, what cell is that? That's going to be cell G13, okay, in summary. Okay. I've got to sneak into that to edit the summary. So I can't click on the cell. When I click on the cell, it jumps to summary. So I have to click away from it and then sneak into it, right click and edit my hyperlink. Okay. And all of a sudden I have forgotten, I forgot what cell was our special cell. Nobody's online to remind me. And so let's say it was H11. So the cell reference to jump to, just type in H11 and OK. Okay. Got to go back and reformat it now. So let's make it bold and bigger. Okay. And click jump to summary. And it took me to H11 instead of A1. So let's go back to contents. So the default, whenever you create these hyperlinks to various tabs, the default location is cell A1, which commonly is where you want to go. You typically always want to go to cell A1, but in the case of maybe some need to go to summary, you can edit your hyperlink, and the active cell will be whatever you say it is, H11. Okay. And so I'm going to hit File Save because I've made some changes to my hyperlink demo file. And that's it. So that's the demonstration of how to create hyperlinks. So let's get back to PowerPoint and see what, so we're done. Okay. Takeaways. I got to show you, it seems like hyperlinks are pretty darn easy to create. They enable you to improve the Excel file's effectiveness and therefore your effectiveness as an engineer, as a team member, as a business manager, as a leader. And so remember, there's two ways to create. I've showed you two ways to create hyperlinks. One is within a cell, just type out text or anything and assign an address to that cell, or create yourself a button and assign a hyperlink to a button. Any shape will do. And so that is that. And there we go. Stop sharing. Gosh, I keep forgetting what I'm doing there in PowerPoint mode. So there we go. And I hope you've gotten something out of this. And so do some thinking about your own, how do you do your work? Or you're in such a, don't be in such a hurry to get your analysis done that you forget your audience or your customer. So plan ahead a little bit and think about your customer. A lot of times that customer will be yourself in 6 months later. And that will really help you improve your engineering or business or leadership effectiveness.